Hello creators, this is Dr. Cristina with the book Ask and It is Given, and today we're gonna look to read, it's a book club, the processes. So at the end of this book there are the 22 processes that Abraham refers to often, and recently from one of the processes in Ask and It is Given, it sprung the inactive box process. So what I'm talking about is the clearing clutter for clarity process.
Which is at, oh, I lost it. Which is at page, in this edition, 231. No, that's which feels.
Clearing clutter, the process of clearing clutter for clarity. So let's read. It's a great process, and I like how they detail in every chapter, they detail how to use this process, the current emotional set point range. Abraham speaks to us more about the clearing clutter for clarity, and imagine yourself in a clutter-free environment. So I think this would be fun. When to use this process? When you're feeling stressed due to your disorganization, when you feel you're spending too much time looking for items, when you find yourself avoiding your home because you feel better elsewhere, when you feel that there's not enough time to do all you need to do. Current emotional set point range. This clearing clutter for clarity process will be one of the most will be of most value to you when your I know how to read. This clearing clutter for clarity process will be the most value to you when your emotional set point range is somewhere between 4 positive expectation belief and 17 anger. So quite a wide range of emotions. If you're not sure what your current emotional set point is, go back to chapter 22 and the emotional guiding scale. We need to do that one day, right? A cluttered environment can cause a clutter point of attraction. If you're surrounded by unfinished work, unanswered letters, incomplete projects, unpaid bill, unattended-to tasks, unsorted piles of paperwork, and stray magazine catalogs and all manner of miscellaneous items, they can negatively affect your life experience, because everything carries its own vibration, and because you develop a vibrational relationship with everything in your life, your personal belongings do have an impact on the way you feel and your point of attraction. There are 2 major hindrances to clearing away clutter. First, you may remember throwing something away only to discover soon after that you really did need it after all. So now you're reluctant to throw anything away. And second, you realize that to really do a good job of getting organized would take far more time than you have to give to the project. For every time you've ever attempted to get organized, you become bogged down in the sorting process and have ended up leaving an even bigger mess than when you began. The clearing clutter for clarity process eliminates those hindrances because it's a sorting procedure that can be done extremely quickly without the possibility of discarding valuable things that you may need later on. To begin the process, obtain several sturdy cardboard boxes with lids. Banker boxes would work well. It's the best if they are the same size and color. That way they will stack neatly and look attractive. We would suggest that you begin with a minimum of 20 boxes, but you may want to obtain more as you discover the productive power of this process. Also, procure a package of alphabetized index cards and a handheld voice recorder. Like my cup, everything is always working out for me. First, assemble the boxes and put 5 or 6 of them in the middle of the room that you wish to organize. Next, number each box with its own unique number, from 1 to 20 and so on. Now look around the room, focus upon an item and ask yourself, is this item important to my immediate experience? If the answer is yes, leave it where it is. If the answer is no, put it in one of the boxes. Then pick up another item and continue the process as you focus upon each item in the room. A great advantage of this process is that you'll not be doing a great deal of sorting right now. This really is a process whereby you simply remove the clutter from your environment. As you put the item into the box, speak into the recorder. For example, unopened package of guitar strings, box number 1. Old cell phone, box number 1. With 5 or 6 boxes open at the same time, you could do a general sorting. In other words, all magazines could go in the same box, clothing items in the same box, small miscellaneous items in the same box, but do not get carried away with the sorting process. Just pick up the item, determine if it's necessary to your immediate experience, and if not, put it in a box and speak into the recorder what the item was and which box you put it in. And at a later time, you can take an hour or so and transfer the information from the recorder onto the alphabetized index cards. In other words, under A, you'll write abalone shell. Under B, write bathing suit. Under C, cell phone. Because you are not thoroughly sorting, this process will go very fast. You'll find yourself feeling better as your space becomes less cluttered, and you'll not experience your usual worry that you'll not be able to find something because you have made a record of exactly where everything is. Now find a wall somewhere in your house or garage where these neat boxes can be placed, and be confident that you can retrieve anything that is important. If you do need the unopened guitar strings, your alphabetical card file will tell you which box you put them in. After a few weeks, when you realize that you have not needed anything from box number 3, for example, you can then move that box out of the house, maybe to some outside storage facility, or maybe even be willing to discard its contents, leaving the box number 3 available for new clutter that may arise. And as you continue the process, you'll begin to relax in the knowledge that you now have control of your environment. Sometimes people will tell us that they are not bothered by the clutter, so we tell them that this process is then unnecessary for them. However, since every piece of everything does carry a vibration, almost everyone really does feel better in an uncluttered. Abraham, speak to us more about clearing clutter for clarity. Physical beings have the habit of gathering stuff around them. Most of you gather this stuff because it's the way you keep score. It's the way you feel time. In other words, you live in a physical world and physical manifestations have become important to you, but then you get buried in details of your manifestations. Most of you spend much of your time just looking for things. And it's not only because you have too many things to sort through, but it's also because the gathering of the stuff is contrary to the freedom that is inherent within all of you. We have talked of the feeling of sadness that feels empty. People often try to fill that feeling of emptiness with stuff. They buy one more thing and bring it home or eat something. In other words, these are lots of creative ways in which you have tried to fill that void. And so it has been our encouragement to some to discard everything from your experience that is not essential to your now. If you could just go through and release those things you are not wearing, release those things you are not using, release them and leave your experience in a clearer place, then the things that are in more harmony with who you are now will more easily flow into your experience. You all have the capacity for attraction, and when your process is clogged with stuff that you no longer want, the new attraction is lower, and then you end up with a feeling of frustration and overwhelmment. And this relates very clearly with the inactive box process, where you use a similar process to put the cards with the negative thoughts in the inactive box and just deem them inactive and make clarity in your mind about what you do want. Okay, I think this is fun. Imagine yourself in a clutter-free environment. Jerry and Esther have been commenting recently that as energy is moving faster, their ideas are also coming into fruition much more quickly, which means that they are buried in stuff. In other words, stuff is coming to them very fast, all kinds of stuff. And then it has to be dealt with. It has to be sorted or filed or read or discarded. Something has to be done with it. Never before has it been more important to get a picture in your mind's eye of your living space. So imagine yourself in an environment of great clarity, a space with immense order. And imagine yourself knowing where everything is. Imagine organizing it in a way that's very comfortable. In other words, just imagine. That is what you're shooting for here, the feeling of relief. Esther, every now and again, will get a mental picture of her mother. Her mother worked full-time all of Esther's childhood, and they had a very large property. Her mother did most of the mowing and of the huge lawn, and in those days there were no riding mowers. At least they had never seen one, but Esther remembers her mother mowing. And then the part that Esther remembers most is that once the lawn was all mowed and the sprinkler had been set to water it, her mother would sit on the porch and just sort of take it all in. And Esther would sit next to her mother and smell the freshly mown grass, and there was an overwhelming feeling of contentment that she was picking up from her mother. The day the lawn was mowed was always a happy day for Esther because there was something so satisfying that her mother felt once it was all done and she was sitting and taking it all in. Similarly, Jerry and Esther often feel this way at the end of one of their workshops. It feels so good. It's like a job well done. It is as everything is falling into alignment. So what you want to do is, in advance, find that feeling place. And if you do so, and the energy lines up, then the clarity, ideas, and help will all come into making the physical reality fall into place for you. In only an hour or two, you can box up the clutter from a room if you're just taking one thing at a time and putting it in the box. And since you have itemized where everything is, because it's all on your voice recorder, then some evening when you're doing something that does not